All right, I'm back again for a little while. We're going to look at these 15-minute cities, and we're going to kind of look at some of the Agenda 2030 and how things in the real world come about from these kind of think tanks, these globalist think tanks. Now, this article here is about how it's facing delays and stuff. The project that they imagine this is what they imagine it's going to be. So this is the current state of it, I guess. This is what they're imagining it to be. Okay, so let's look at Wikipedia of it. Is a planned smart city. So let's see, what is a smart city? Okay, a smart city is an urban model that leverages technology, human capital, and governance to enhance sustainability, efficiency, and social inclusion. Considered goals for the cities of the future. Smart cities use digital technology to collect data and operate services. So you notice this part is the same thing that the Bank for International Settlements is doing. They're using AI to collect data because that's basically communism, you know? They want to plan everything out, pre-plan everything out. And they're not telling you about the part where they cut off the meat and tell you you can't eat anything but vegetables or whatever. See, here we go. Everybody that's criticizing it, this is what we're all saying. Smart city initiatives have been criticized as driven by corporations, poorly adapted to residents' needs, as largely unsuccessful, and as a move towards a totalitarian surveillance. See? Okay. So here, we go back to this. This is where they're planning on building it. Right? And see, here they say the infrastructure, underground transport. Artificial intelligence will monitor the city and use predictive data models to find ways to improve life for citizens. Now, see, this is the thing that like Jay Dyer's always talking about, you know, what your moral metaphysics and morals are. So this word improve can mean so many different things to so many different people, right? But it always means something positive to the person, right? So when you just use the word improve without defining what you mean by improve, you know, it depends on what they mean by improve, you know? So you have to look at that. Well, at least you'll be getting paid for submitting your data, I guess, since you'll be living in this tiny city where everything is 15 minutes away from, and you never have to go further than 15 minutes away from your apartment. See, notice that they're the World Economic Forum, again, they're always there. Okay. So that they're just talking about the different components of it. You can watch a video on the line, actually, and it will give you a pretty good understanding of it. See, again, people are criticizing it, saying that, you know, it will be a surveillance city. And of course, there's the data sharing, right? Okay. So you could just say, oh, well, maybe they just made this idea up on their own, right? But then it's like, no, actually, see, World Economic Forum. Oh, that's not going to go out of the way, is it? All right, here we go. World Economic Forum is also talking about the 15-minute city. Now, part of it is that they're saying that it's not going to work. but it doesn't seem to be stopping a lot of the people from going forward making them. And while they're saying that here, then in this next thing here, you can see that there's this C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, right? Which it's all about reducing greenhouse gas. That basically means you breathing. And climate risks basically means you using any type of electricity, gas power outside of what they want you to do, while increasing health, not being able to eat pizza, and well-being, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Basically, that's what this means. Right? That's what this means. Greenhouse gas emissions means you can't drive anywhere. Climate risks means that you can't heat or cool your house to what you want it to be. Increasing health means no pizza, no cigarettes, no beer. And well-being and economic opportunities means diversity, equity, inclusion. Right? And you can see a lot of mayors, governors, politicians are on board with this plan. And look who's here. The Clinton Climate Initiative and former President Bill Clinton, right? Who read Tragedy and Hope and passed the class. He was one of the highest achieving students in the class, right? Okay, so we can even look, Clinton Climate Initiative, very similar. A lot of high-level politicians and power players in the business world. John Podesta's there. Some people might know about him. I'm not really going to read through this, but you can just see that it exists. These things exist. They get these charities going, and they donate money, and they're all working off of the same book, basically, even though they're not together. And it's almost impossible to make a claim that, it's some type of racketeering or something, but it is. Okay, see? So even though which one is it? Oh, here. So even though the World Economic Forum is saying, we don't know about this now, right? But they're only putting that up here because a lot of people are rejecting this idea. But then behind the scenes, you can see they're still going ahead with it, just under a different name. Now they're calling it C40. And then this is the actual C40 website. Race to Zero, City Zero, meaning, no climate, meaning you can't drive a car. Okay. All these climate things, like, they sound great, but I think that people just need to be educated and voluntarily, for the most part, do, less pollution. And the fact is, a lot of the big corporations that actually do the most pollution, they have plenty of ways and loopholes to get out of these things. So the only people that are going to really get the screws put to them when it comes to all of this climate stuff, right, is going to be the regular average person. They're going to be, their heating and cooling prices are going to go up, right? Their food prices are going to go up, because that's what this is all about. It's about raising the price of stuff so people can get access to less of it. And then they call that, helping the environment, because you basically can't drive anywhere. You can't heat your house enough. You have to eat specific types of food. Public transportation, right? Public transportation. That's what transportation means. Free buses. Yeah, free buses, but now you don't have a car. A bus only goes to a predetermined location, right? Your car, you can go anywhere. You can put whatever you want in your car. But a free bus, it only goes to and from your job, right? A free bus only goes within the city. It doesn't even, then you have to get another bus to go outside the city, right? And here we go. Urban planning, 15-minute cities, right? It's all part of this, right? And at first it seems kind of confusing, but in actuality, it's not. You can see all the players, all the people, they're all involved in the same groups, in the same organizations, enacting the same plan. Wait, hold up. Where is that? One thing. And that's on it. Oh, here it is, C40. See, right here, it even says on the C40 cities, it says type international organization, focus climate change, right? So then you go here to transforming our world, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So that's what that means. Sustainable means, they're going to restrict what you can do. And now I'm not saying that polluting the planet is good and that, all these other things that they're focusing on are bad. But I think that when you combine this with the ideas from Tragedy and Hope and see that these people don't really care about you, they're only putting this on as a face. See, look, they have a whole thing just for Africa. That's scary. Africa, you should be scared if they have a whole thing just for you, right? Capacity development. What is that? Let's find out what that is. Can we click on this? Okay. Okay. Capacity building activities are also aimed at strengthening and maintaining the capabilities of states and societies to design and implement strategies that minimize the negative impacts of current social, economic, and environmental crises and emerging challenges. As a cross-cutting entry point, capacity building activities promote the integration of 2030 agenda and sustainable development goals into national sustainable development planning frameworks, sharing lessons learned and good practices through workshops and related events like those war game type of things. Okay, so supporting governments and stakeholders to strengthen the contribution of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda and SDG, which is Sustainable Development Goals. So as you can see here, it's kind of esoteric the way they're writing it, but basically you can see that these micro, small, medium-sized enterprises will be given some type of benefit as long as they go along with the sustainable development goals. So let's check it. What is that? What is that? Okay. Micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises contribute to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals. MSMEs help reduce levels of poverty through job creation and economic growth. They are key drivers of employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship for women, of course. And then your population goes down. Women in the workforce, anyone? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it does lead to your population going down. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Put women in college, women in the workforce, your birth rate drops. And women start having children later in life. See, it's feminism, right? Closing the gender gap. Closing the gender gap. Right? See, it's feminism is just a tiny piece of this. It's just a tiny, tiny piece of this whole globalist agenda to put everybody underneath this system. Like, I'm not saying that women's like empowerment isn't bad, but when you put it into context with the fact that they want to basically reduce, everything that everyone's using, right? It's all about this environmental reduction, because that's what race to zero means, zero climate impact, right? So zero climate impact, using less heat and cooling systems, using less electricity, less food, less transportation, right? And then it all culminates in, entrepreneurship for women, lowering your birth rate. Right. Wait, what happened to that other one? I thought I opened it. Okay. Oh. Okay, is that possible? I mean, I guess technically it could be if you just print out money. All right. See, I mean, this all sounds amazing. But I mean, there's a lot of ways you can get to zero hunger, like depopulating everyone until there's no one left, and then there won't be any hungry people. Okay, yeah. See, the high food prices, right? But the high food prices are beneficial to the banks that control the entire system. So why are you responsible for this? Why do you have to worry about this and feel guilty when it's those huge banks that are basically causing all this stuff to happen? See, sounds great. Sounds good. I mean, I'm not even gonna. I mean, that's good. See, inclusivity and equality. Not saying it's bad, but it depends on the context. And I think really the main thing here is just, even if you do agree with all of this stuff, you do have to ask the question, like, how do they have the right to just decide for everyone what's going to happen behind the scenes? See, empower women. Where's the empowering of men? See, notice how gender equality always only ends up empowering women, right? It's never gender equality for men and women, right? It's not gender equality for men and women. Gender equality equals women empowerment. You see how that works? It's not because if you were going to say equality, the first thing you would say is men and women, right? So it's under the presupposition, it's under the assumption that men are at some type of advantage and women need to be brought up to where, or empowered to the same level as men, right? And it's just not the case. Okay. Okay. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. I'm sorry, I was just laughing because about the Bill Gates poop conversion machine. Hold on, let's go there. You can't make this stuff up, right? You can't make this stuff up, right? This is what we're gonna bring to Africa. It's like, hey, Africa, you guys want some poop water? We got tons of poop water for you, right? Ensure drinking water and sanitation. Yeah, right. Why are those two connected like that? Why are those two connected like that? Now, this is written by Bill Gates. Bold, brother. Bold. Jeez. Right. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy. Sounds good. Sounds good. But then that also means they might cut off some other forms of energy, like oil and gas. Not exactly sure. Okay. That would be great. You know, full employment and decent work would be great for a lot of people. Okay. Getting rid of child labor, that's good. Okay. Don't have a problem with that. But I mean, some things obviously they have to do that are good. Otherwise, people wouldn't let them come into their country. See, when they say sustainable industrialization, then they're talking about like carbon credits and all that type of stuff. And once you give them the ability to monitor who's being sustainable and who's not, they're in control. Okay. But otherwise, doesn't sound bad. I guess they're talking about monetary inequality. No, of course not. Okay, yeah, people with disabilities do get discriminated against, but I mean, they have a disability. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is probably where the smart cities things comes in. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So that means diversity, equity, and inclusion. No self-defense, can't have a gun. Gotta let people stab you in the neck on the bus. Resilient, I'm not sure what that one is. And sustainable means you can't drive a car, you can't have like a wood burning stove, probably can't have a barbecue grill in the back. Eventually, can't turn your air conditioner up too high, can't turn your heater up too high. Maybe can only use electricity certain parts of the day. Okay, maybe you don't believe that either. Okay, let's look. What is it? California smart thermostat. Oh wait, hold up. Smart thermostat. Don't see anything about that. Okay, so maybe that's not a thing then. All right. But yeah, sustainable definitely means you can't drive a car, you can't heat your house, you can't cool your house, you can't use too much water to water your lawn. Similar sustainable consumption means, you can only get eco-friendly products, you can only get, certain types of food from animals that are eco-friendly, supposedly, all these types of stuff, right? And production patterns, I don't know exactly what they're saying there. Probably something having to do with tariffs or something like that. Again, climate change, all that, it just means you can't drive your car, you can't take a hot shower, you know, you can't mow your lawn with a gas mower. That's basically what that means. This means basically no fishing, and boats are going to be restricted from using certain types of fuels, stuff like that. This means you can't live in certain areas. There's going to be certain areas that are going to be blocked off. Let's see if I can find that. Okay, now this guy, Joel Skousen, he's been predicting for a long time that the government is going to restrict certain areas for you to live in. I don't know. Let me see if I can find like the map. Can't find it. Hold on. Just got the books now. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's like Canada. All right. Well, I don't see it. Maybe it's on. Let me check YouTube real quick. Oh, he's got the full. Whoa, they got the full video up here. Sweet. I would watch that for sure. Let me see if I can get the link for it. Put that in the. All right. Let's see if I can find those maps. In there. What the audio's like. Okay. I'm going to get banned for playing AJ.
Buildings are bad on the beach. Well, it's about insiders only being allowed to build. So that's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. They want you under their control. And sure, even if you can't move to the safest zones in the U.S., there's a lot of options broken down here.
I do cover the cultural conflict issue as well as racial and ethnicity. And I show maps that show where high-density minority populations are. And I do this not because I'm racist, because I have many friends in both camps, but because those camps themselves realize that they're being manipulated by the media, by globalists. It's a very popular thing to play on race. It's not so much that they will use it, in my opinion, during a crisis as much as they will use it to foment crises. And they have for many, many years used the illegal alien. Whenever you get a strong movement in conservatives against giving amnesty, they hit the streets. Somebody's pushing those people out on the streets. ICE goes and does a raid on, and then they show all these kinds of pictures about the poor family members that are getting deported and little children are being left behind. This is meant, of course, to change law, to diminish one's ability to close the borders and have.
Bro, when did this even come out? This came out a while ago. 12 years ago. 12 years ago. Okay. And people are like, oh, like they just heard about this stuff. Oh, here we go. Here's the maps. I saw some maps.
We're at the least density ring. You can commute into it, get out of it. We'll talk a little bit more about that, about strategy. Let's talk now about picking a safe country before we get to the analysis of North America. I get a lot of calls, Alex, about people wanting to leave the country. The basic philosophy, their line of reasoning is, this is where the globalist leaders are, this is where the bad guys are, they intend to do many bad things to us, they're getting ready to lock people up, they're building concentration camps, I gotta get out of the country. And so let's talk about a little about international retreating and what are the various options and opinions and problems. One of the problems is that all of the international websites about retreating to foreign countries are run by expatriates. Expatriates are people with money who have left the country, living the high life in Costa Rica or Australia, New Zealand. And it's a very deceptive point of view because things aren't going to be like that in a crisis. You have to look strategically, think strategically about what's going to happen to these nations when a real crisis, and are they going to be reacting the same to Americans in their presence as now? So let's look at this map and talk about some of the regions of the world. This is a world population density map, and you notice fault, and these are other minor faults coming through the southeast. Now, it's interesting that this map doesn't mean that everything is never necessarily devastated if you're in any of these high earthquake areas. What I point out in the book is you have to look at the actual ground conditions in the area that you're at. For example, of course, when we design these, we make sure that we don't design all the details into the plans. You simply put a box in concrete, and you don't put any of the facilities in. You call it storage, or you call it a tornado shelter, and then you put in the detailed equipment, which would make it obvious what its purpose is after the built-rated state, because it's got the Cumberland Plateau. There's this big Appalachian mountain chain here. In this of the Midwest here, you see these huge areas, Detroit and Chicago and Columbus and Cincinnati. And even though there's a lot of rural, and you drive through those areas and you think, gee, this is still very rural, you've got to look at these depictions that we've made of how dense these populations are, and when they spread out, all of these areas around those are going to be compromised, and so you have to be pretty far away to even have any chance of surviving, and you're much better off when you start getting further west, where it gets.
And just watch what the elites do. It's on the news. They're building bunkers and castles and armored redoubts in the Ozarks.
That's right.
I mean, it's amazing. And I know you've built some of these homes or advised on them.
That's right. So let's go to Idaho then, if you want to bring up the map of Idaho, and we'll talk about a safe state and some specific areas in this.
All right.
Now,
Can't
Idaho.
find the map, but check that out though for sure. Okay. I gotta get out of here in a minute though. Okay. Check out a couple more of these real quick. See, that's basically like DEI right here. Okay, I mean, justice is good for the most part, as long as it's everybody's on the same definition. It's always about the definitions of these types of words, these moral claims. Accountable sounds good, but what about that M3 money supply? Can we get an account of the M3 money supply? Like, seriously. Come on. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. That means put the screws on every country that's not going along with having all of their political and economic power reduced by this global government. Well, that seems like it's the last one anyway. So, yeah, I'll look around more for that Joel Skousen stuff and see if I can find the maps where he was showing how it's gonna, like, how the government's gonna stop people from living in certain areas. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like they have to do that anymore. Most people they want to live in the smart city. You know, they want to live in that, like, you know, they watched WALL-E, I guess, one too many times, and now they really want to just live in that. Like, it's like, oh, it'll be great, you know, when the computer's like monitoring everything, and we'll just go into the future with the computer in the smart city. Yeah, yay. All right. I'll probably be back later. Until then, peace.